What's going on, DGen Nation? Today we're gonna hop into a Best Ball Mania 4 draft. This is my first stream draft. I've done 53 BBM so far. We're in June. This is June 6th, so I think pretty good pace. I want to get around 100, somewhere in that range. And let's see, we are picking out of the 12 spot. So a little back-to-back action. I don't mind the 12 spot. I think there's good value there if you want to go receiver. See if you recognize any of the names in the draft. Ron Stewart, I recognize him. Not a fan, to say the least. Not a fan. But 3 red badges in here. A black badge. I'm a black badge. I'm probably in the 600-700 range as far as drafts go. I don't think it will be too much longer until I get my red badge. I think I should have it by the end of the summer, possibly. Right now I'm mainly focused on BBM though. I fired a lot at the big board. I maxed the big board, but haven't really done much since. I'm trying to pace myself with the BBMs. And I guess pacing myself means 53 by June. So not really the best pacing, but so we got, let's see, the top 4 here. Justin Jefferson, as usual. Jamar Chase at the 2. AJ Brown at the 3. Starting to see that more and more often. AJ Brown creeping up to the top of the board. Tyreek Hill at 4. And then CMC at 5 is just tremendous value. Cooper Kupp goes 6. Travis Kelce. It's tough to make that distinction. Like, you know, McCaffrey's so good, but we saw 2 years ago how great Cooper Kupp can be. He has as elite of a ceiling as anybody who's ever played the position. I mean, that's one season was just unreal. So you do have to make a bit of a bet on the Rams bouncing back, but I would be willing to take that bet. I would be all over Cooper Kupp anywhere past the, you know, top 2 in Chase and Jefferson for sure. Get Bijan at 8, and I've also seen Bijan slipping into the second. He went 17th in one of the drafts I was watching yesterday. The steam on him has settled a bit. He was up in the top 5, top 6. I've seen him go as high as 2. So that has settled down a lot. And you see, besides McCaffrey, Kelce, and Bijan, we get nothing but receivers so far. The RPH in the 10 hole goes Lamb. So I'm on deck here. Let's see. He goes Garrett Wilson. I don't have many shares of Barkley, but I'm going to go Eckler. And it's always tough because I do think Jonathan Taylor has that elite upside, but I mean, no matter what, I just don't see how you pass on Devontae Adams. He is just such a beast. Regardless who's throwing him the ball, I think he is just a monster. So I think he has a couple of those elite years left in him, and I just can't see passing on him there. I keep looking at Saquon. You know, I just maybe he doesn't fall, and you know, I feel like I've been either picking towards the back or towards the beginning. I haven't had many in that sweet spot where I could get him. But you know, you look at his numbers from last year: 255 total points on the season. You know, Chubb had more, Henry had more, Jacobs had more. Stevenson was right in that range, and he, you know, he's on the rise. He's a player on the rise. I think if Hall finished the season healthy, he would have been roughly in that range. So I don't think Saquon really separated himself. Let's get back to the draft board. So I went Eckler, Adams, 12, 13. And then we see Amon-Ra and wow, Chris Olave coming off the board at pick 15. I have not seen that. I have not seen Chris Olave go that high. That is unbelievable. Waddle goes 16, and then Ron Stewart gets blessed there with Jonathan Taylor at the 17 spot. It's amazing value. Amazing value. Baton Stud, I believe is how you say his name. Baton Stud. He goes with the classic Kelsey Mahomes combo. It's difficult when you get to that spot and you have Kelsey to not take Mahomes. It's very difficult to click away from him. I have done it a couple times when taking Kelsey, and I've also taken Mahomes without Kelsey. It's just, if he's there, it's very tempting to take him and then kind of figure out your team and get unique later. So not a surprising start there. Barkley at 19, Chubb at 20. Higgins, Devonta, Pollard, and Fear My Turtle is going for the back-to-back here on the turn. So that's the tough part about picking at either end. It's just, it's so long between your next pick. He goes Josh Allen now. Let's see what he follows it up with. He's taking his time, really assessing the ball. Oh, he goes Jacobs. You hear a lot of people say, "Oh, that's a unique start. That's a unique start." I feel like unless you're watching literally hundreds of drafts a day, you don't really know where I mean, you have an idea. You see that, a lot of the same stacks, but it's also difficult to say, "Oh, that's a unique start." There could be so many of these drafts that you're not seeing streamed live, or drafts that you're in where people just get weird. They get weird just to get weird, not even picking up any value or any EV. It's just, I mean, I've done a couple myself where I tried to get different in the first and second. I would go either Devontae Adams and Jacobs, because you don't see that combo a lot, or CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard. So you're reaching a bit on Pollard, you're reaching a bit on Jacobs, but it is a bit of a unique stack that you don't see often. But who knows, when you get to those playoff rounds, you see some teams that you're like, I never thought someone would put that combo together. So it also depends on what time of the year you're drafting as well. That factors into it. As I said, I maxed the big board, which started immediately after the NFL draft ended, and I was getting Anthony Richardson in the last round, just like some of these values, because players hadn't signed, players hadn't settled. There was still so much to be decided. So a lot of these things can change. I think two of the bigger things that are hanging over the draft right now are Dalvin Cook. It seems like almost a sure thing that he's going to move. So where does he move, and how does that affect the running backs that are already on that team? I think that's a huge wild card. And also DeAndre Hopkins. He still has to settle somewhere, has not signed yet. So I'm sure he's going to take his sweet time. He's not one for practicing. So this time of the year, OTAs and all that are not his specialty. So we're on deck here. We've gone Eckler, Adams. I don't have much Keenan Allen, but I do have too much Mike Williams, and I want to balance out my Mike Williams a little bit. So absolutely no. I was gonna say, absolutely love Najee Harris. So let's go Keenan just to lock in our first pick, and we got a lot of options here. Love Lamar, but Andrews is gone. I like Gibbs. I do like Gibbs a lot, but I think I would prefer going with the third receiver here. Yeah, I'm just gonna grab Amari. He's just too steady. He's steady, but has tremendous upside. I mean, he scored over 200 points last year. Surprised a lot of people playing with Brissett, then Watson towards the end of the season, but the Cowboys gave up on him too soon, and they regret it. He's just a very good, very steady receiver, and I think he has a chance to replicate that with a full season and an off season with Deshaun Watson to kind of get that compatibility going. And you can't double him. He's not they do have enough weapons where you can't double him. Bringing in Elijah Moore, DPJ going deep, and then you get Njoku across the middle. Plus, you get to account for a very good offensive line and Chubb running the ball. So, I do like Cooper there. It was between Cooper and Christian Watson. I love Watson, but the only uncertainty is Jordan Love. Is he good enough to make Christian Watson a star? A lot of touchdowns last year for Watson too. So could that fluctuate? Maybe not as many scoring opportunities, red zone, goal line. So I think that's a factor as well. Let's go back to the draft board here. So I went Keenan and Amari. Don't have much Keenan Allen. He's scary at that spot. I was breaking down one of my drafts from last year, and that's around where I took him, and he was just a bust. But with taking Eckler in the first, I want to give myself a chance to get Justin Herbert because I absolutely love Herbert for this year. If you look at 2 years ago, the numbers are staggering. The 5,000 yards. He was a top, just off the top of my head, he was a top 3, top 4 QB at worst. I want to say he was number 2, but like a 400-point season on underdog, which is up there with the elites. So he had an injury early in the season. He played through the injury. You could tell he was banged up. The fact that they're bringing in Kellen Moore, I think, is an upgrade because Brandon Staley, their coach, is definitely a bonehead. So love that they're bringing in some new thoughts, a new fresh mind. I did like Kellen Moore at times. He had some head scratching plays with Dallas, but he also played at an extremely fast pace, and Dallas was always top of the league in pace. So I think Herbert has the talent coming into this year healthy. I think he turns it back around and gives you something similar to what he gave you last year. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope he makes it back to us. I don't think so. He's at the top of the board right now. Top of the board for QBs. He's second overall behind Walker. So unlikely he makes it back to us. His ADP is 54 and our next pick is 60. So I've seen him make it. There, but you run the risk. Someone either takes him unstacked or let's see, where's the Mike Williams owner picking? Oh, he had a chance to take him there at the turn, so he didn't. So, let's see. J.K. Dobbins there, 54. Whew. Bit of a reach. Not saying Dobbins can't be good, but that's his third running back there in the first 5 rounds. Bit of a reach. If Herbert can make it back here at the turn, I would be ecstatic, but I could see old Ronnie boy scooping him up here unstacked. Nope, he goes Godwin. So 3 picks away. Definitely going Herbert if he's there. But if he's not, then you have to pivot. You have to be able to pivot quickly. I watch some of these drafts and these guys get so flustered. Oh, not only do they not queue people, I don't need to queue people because I don't time. I rarely, if ever, time out unless I'm multi-tabling. But they don't know how to utilize the queue, and they just get completely flustered if their guy goes. You have to be able to move on quickly. Find what your next stack is. So this guy's already got a quarterback. He's already got Lamar in the last round, but I could see him definitely doing something stupid. Um, and nope, he goes Ayuk. I thought he was maybe auto drafting, but I mean, that's beautiful. That's the thing of beauty right there. Justin Herbert. So we can just go anchor with Eckler. Um, love JSN, love Lockett, love Williams. Yeah, I like these receivers so much more in this range than I do the running backs. But I'm gonna go Pitts. I'm gonna go Pitts just to get a nice balance in the roster. I have my QB anchor at running back and Eckler, and three potential stud receivers. So I mean, it was definitely between Pitts and JSN, Lockett, Evans. I think that there is a teardrop there. Uh, I worry about Evans with the age, the amount of snaps, the quarterback play, but I have like 25%, 26% Evans already in BBM. I have a good amount of Lockett, but Lockett, he's steamed up from where he was last year, and they're bringing in the first receiver off the board, a potential stud receiver in JSN. So you have to worry a little bit about how those targets are distributed in Seattle. I mean, they could be a high-powered offense. They have all the tools, the weapons, but do they cannibalize each other a bit? Metcalf is always that big body, that touchdown threat. So I like both of those guys. Don't get me wrong, but I just think being able to get Lockett in the 10th last year, compared to the 6th, is a big difference. So I would still be willing to pay the price, but I think I love Pitts for a bounce back as well. And I think it brings more balance to my team. So let's get back to the board. Let's see what's going on. So I went Herbert Pitts on the turn. Then we get Deontay, Miles Sanders, Damian Pierce, Mike Evans, Lawrence, JSN, Tyler Lockett, and CJTB is on the clock. I think Miles Sanders falls into that RB dead zone. And the thing about the RB dead zone is there was so much talk about it last year, and people think they know what's going to happen from year to year. Like the RB dead zone, yeah, it did have some data to back it, but every year is different. And the RB1 overall was drafted out of the dead zone. There was a bunch of good running backs in that range. So when you're listening to these people, take it with a grain of salt, and it's good to get different ideas, but don't ever take it as an absolute. It's not a guarantee that you take a running back in the 5, 6, 7 range that they're going to bust. There was a ton of good examples last year of running backs in that range being phenomenal. I mean, you're talking about the RB1 overall in Josh Jacobs. So I do think I don't love that range for Sanders, especially changing teams. Like he played behind one of the best offensive lines of all time. He played with a rushing quarterback who you had to worry about on every single play, breaking off a big run. So I think that was a huge factor in him having the season that he had. He had, the touchdowns went up. I think he had 0 the year before that, 0, 1, and shot up to 7 or 8 or whatever it was. So the touchdowns went up. He goes to Carolina. They had a decent offensive line last year, but you never know how things can change. And I just don't like the situation as much to be taking him in the 6th right there. So a player I don't have much of. If he fell to, let's say, the 8th, that's a much more palatable price for him. So we get Treylon Burks, Gabe Davis at the turn. Now we're coming back around. Madison at 74, Akers at 75, Swift at 76. So I think this is an excellent range to be getting your running backs, to be honest. If Cook is gone and Madison has a chance to win that job, he could be definitely a stud in the 7th round, 74th overall. Cam Akers, same thing. He's in a contract year. He's still young. You got to worry about the Achilles, but he came on so strong at the end of last season. It was annoying. It was annoying how strong he came on at the end of the season after he's basically off the team. And so many of these people were taking him last year in the 4th round, and he was dead in the water. And all of a sudden, the ghost of Cam Akers arises. And yeah, I faded him completely last year. And that was a bit annoying down the stretch. A lot of those teams got passed through to the championship, to the BBM final. Teams with Cam Akers, who, you could say they made a bad pick, but paid off in the end. All right, so we're coming up next here. So I haven't thought much about week 17 at this point. And I've done my best to memorize week 17. So the Chargers got Denver. Sutton's there, but I don't love him. Go Javante. Could go back-to-back running back here. Yeah, I mean, Sutton's a reach, but he won't be back around. I love Montgomery playing behind that offensive line, so I'll go Montgomery. Between Montgomery and Rachaad White, I think Rachaad White has a chance to be very good in high volume. You see the 50 catches last year, but that's a Tom Brady offense. Tom Brady is notorious for just dumping it down when he goes through his first 2 progressions, maybe his third. He's ready for that dump down, and I don't see Baker Mayfield being that dump down kind of quarterback. And Kyle Trask, who knows? I mean, anybody's guess. So I could have gone Sutton there, but I don't love Sutton. I feel like Denver's going to find 2 guys that they like. Sean Payton's going to find 2 or 3 guys that really stand out in training camp, and I feel like that's going to be the core. So if Sutton doesn't live up to those lofty expectations that he put up a few years ago, that 1,000-yard season, if he for whatever reason doesn't get on Peyton's good side, I think you could see Mims. I think you could see Patrick and Judy, and one of them can be phased out. So, and he's a creative guy in the way he uses his guys. So it's not out of the question that Sutton could be a good player, but you see all the weird stuff the Saints used to do at the goal line. Adam Troutman catches a touchdown and Taysom Hill, and it's just I don't think there's going to be significant volume for Sutton. So we can always get some Denver bringbacks later. I mean, Russ always hangs around late. I already got Javante, P. Ryan's there. You get Mims, Patrick. So there's a ton of options. Dulcich, I do like Dulcich a lot as well. So I would not mind him at all as my second tight end. That's the thing about picking at the turn. You know the guys aren't coming back, so you got to make the most of it. No matter what, Sutton wasn't making it back to me at 108, most likely. So his ADP, I think, was 95, but in that scenario, you have to take him there if you want him. You have to. So playing the ADP game is great, and it always feels good to get someone after ADP, but it also sucks to miss out on your guys just to be stubborn to try and play the ADP game. Not something I recommend. I think people have a hard time balancing that. Like some guys will come in and I'm getting my guys. I don't care. It's the 2nd round, but this guy usually goes in the 5th. boom, I'm taking him there. And you're just not scooping value at that point. You're making your team worse because you could still get that guy in the fifth, but you don't know who you're missing out on in the second because you got him. So it's just I some people just don't have a great strategy. They go in, they see names, flashy names, and they have guys, they have a preconceived notion. They shut themselves out, they shut their mind off to certain guys, and they tell themselves, oh, I'm not taking him. And those are the kind of guys that burn you. I did a little bit last year with Jacobs, and I got sucked into that whole Josh Jacobs, the Hall of Fame game, and Zamir White, and we get a new coach. What's happening? And um, not a great idea to completely fade somebody. I think, like I said about Cam Akers, I think I had 100 teams. I think I had maybe 2 shares of Cam Akers, but that down the stretch, that last 5 games, he was a monster. So you got to pick and choose your battles, and I don't think you completely rule out anybody. All right, so I love Charbonnet. I mean, if he's there, I'm taking him at this range. It's absolutely silly. The dude was just so good in college, and it is a crowded backfield, but I don't care. And I take AJ Dillon. I think he's going way too late, and so wouldn't normally recommend this, but I think like that is the tier break right there for me at running back. I do like Gibson. A Chain has some upside. Harris, that could you could even cut it off there, maybe at the Harris. I think Elijah Mitchell is good, but he's someone who you probably need CMC to get hurt in order to get that real spike week potential. So I cut the tier off there. You can see Russ is pretty far down here on the quarterbacks list, so I can definitely grab him on the next turnaround, I believe. And I didn't love any of those receivers up top. I have a lot of Sky Moore, but other than that, I didn't love any of those guys right there. So I think it would have been silly to take a wide receiver I didn't like. And I do feel very good about the 3 that I have. So my plan here, honestly, is to snag Russ and Dulcich on the way back. But as you can see there, the quarterbacks start to go. You get Geno Smith off the board, Kirk Cousins. And I actually didn't even really notice, but P. Ryan had went right before me on the turn there. I would have probably taken him if he was there instead of maybe Dylan. But that's okay. And does that feel like a long time though? Does that feel like sometimes you put those picks in and it feels like an eternity before it comes back to you. And we really would like those Rodgers and Goff to hang around a bit, because I know if they're hanging around, that Russ is most likely going to be hanging around. So yeah, some of these Denver receivers like Mims and Patrick are a very affordable price. 3 straight Kansas City Chiefs off the board. And none of them to the Mahomes Kelsey team. So they got to be a little frustrated. Say Jones, this is what we want. I mean, we are gonna if I grab Russ and Dulcich here, I'm pretty much hammering. No, I am. I am hammering receiver the rest of the way. And after you get past this gross middle range right here, there are some guys I really like. Like hopefully grab Mims. I love Tyquan Thornton. Mechie. Renfro is a guy I have like 40% Renfro. And that might sound gross if he wasn't going at 181 overall. I mean, I think that's just tremendous value. So there are receivers with upside and floor that I can grab later. So there goes Goff. Rogers is gone. So Wilson's at the top of the board here. So, I mean, he's only got one quarterback. It would not shock me if he just snipes me here on Russ. It would not shock me one bit. His one quarterback is Lamar. So, but if he times out, Jamal Williams is at top of the board. So let's hope he times out on Jamal. Oh, he put someone in the queue. So you got Roschon Johnson. All right, let's grab Russ. Literally right at his ADP, 132. Can't complain about that. And let's go Dulcich. Even though, I mean, if you look at ADP, I'm picking at 133. His ADP is 144, but very little chance he swings back around to me. And I like him a lot, especially as a number 2 tight end. So we'll go Dulcich, and we are gonna hammer wide receivers the rest of the way. And I'm fine with that. That's a scary proposition if you didn't get 3 early. But for my 3 out of my first 4 picks were wide receivers. So I absolutely love this team so far. 5 very solid running backs. Herbert with that elite potential, 6 picks after ADP. Pitts with the potential to be an elite tight end. Saw flashes of it his rookie year. So I'm extremely pleased right now with this team. And that goes to show why I took Pitts over there, even though I loved some of the guys that were there. I loved Mike Evans, Lockett, JSN, but you're looking at a team like Ron Stewart here, no tight ends to this point. So he's looking at one of these names right here as his tight end 1. And to me, that's ugly. Because if that doesn't pan out, then your team's sunk already. And some might say, if Pitts doesn't pan out, you're sunk. He didn't last year, certainly, but I think Ritter is an upgrade over Mariota. Mariota is just dog shit at throwing the football. So I think no matter what, that's an upgrade for Pitts. Definitely a couple tight ends I like late, though. I will say that it's definitely scary, but if you can pull it off, you get the Dawson Knox of the world. Taysom Hill was fantastic last year. Laporta has a big opportunity in Detroit. Higbee had some spike weeks last year. Michael Mayer with that, high draft capital. So there's definitely some options at tight end. It's not the craziest thing in the world to leave off tight end till this late, but I do like getting an elite tight end if I can. Let's go back to the draft board. Sorry. Yeah, so we're 12 picks away. Tank, a couple guys I like in this range too, as far as running backs. I know I said there was a tier dip, and there probably was in terms of guys who could be RB1, RB2 versus guys who could be RB3 flex. Tank Bigsby, Jalen Warren, Kendre Miller. With Bigsby, it's like a 3rd-round draft pick, a 3rd-round draft capital for a running back in today's day and age is like, it's basically like a second. Second BFA. It moves down 1 round, maybe a round and a half, compared to what it used to be, because they're getting pushed back so much. I know we saw 2 in the 1st round this year, which is extremely rare. But yeah, Bigsby with 3rd-round draft capital on a good offense, I think is has big potential. Short, short work, goal line work, short yardage work, goal line work. And if ETN gets hurt, look out. I mean, he's not going to probably play a ton on third down, but he's going to get the bulk of the carries, and I think that's tremendous opportunity there. Jalen Warren, the Steelers made massive upgrades to their line. Broderick Jones and Darnell Washington, who was a tight end, but just an absolute monster of a run blocker. So I love Najee and I love Jalen Warren as just that jitterbug kind of back. And Kendre Miller, another one, got some pretty good draft capital. Kamara, more likely than not, going to be out for the season. He's competing against an older back in Jamal Williams, who I think benefited tremendously from playing behind that offensive line in Detroit. I don't think he's 17 touchdown good. He's steady, but he's nothing special. So Kendre Miller with a good opportunity if he can show out in the early part of the season. So we are on deck now. So we've pretty much made up our mind that we are going receiver. So I think Mims, without a doubt, fits our build. And this range here, pretty gross. I think Jaden Reed has upside. I love Tyquan Thornton, but I'm hoping I can maybe snag Tyquan on the next wraparound. So I'm going to go DPJ. I think he's very underrated. You know what? I'm going Tyquan. I'm going Tyquan. I DPJ is underrated, but they did bring in some target competition. They brought in a rookie who they like a lot. And they brought in Elijah Moore. So the positive things I'm hearing about Tyquan, I really think that he could take a leap under Bill O'Brien. I think he knows how to utilize him. I think the speed is legit. The speed is real. If he can clean up some of his route running, I think he could be a monster. I really do. I think if Devontae Parker doesn't have a great training camp, or if they move on from Kendrick Bourne, that one of those receiver slots is wide open for the taking. And whether that's the X receiver, him running those long routes down the field. Does Mac have a cannon? No, but if he anyone that's 3-4 yards open can get the ball. Even Mac Jones can hit him. So I think there's definitely an opportunity there for Tyquan. And it's a bit of a reach, 157, ADP 171. I could have tried to push it. I could have tried to see if he would wrap around to me, but there's also the steam from training camp. There's been good reports. He looked great at OTA, so things trending in the right direction for him, certainly. And we get a long time coming before we come back, but hopefully this is where people start taking their second quarterback, maybe third quarterback, grabbing their tight ends, grabbing their running backs. So we got to hope that those wide receivers stay on the board. Two guys I like in that range. DPJ, it's got spike week potential. Jaden Reed got the draft capital. Could be, those are the kind of guys you want to take stabs at, first or second year receivers with high upside. I think Tyquan's the most ready right now. And Bill O'Brien gonna make all the difference in the world to me. It already looks like night and day from what I've seen so far. So I like that. Honestly, these 5 receivers, Mims, who knows? Like I said, he could have a red shirt year. Tyquan, I have high expectations for, but as your 4 and 5, not my favorite. But overall, I do love this team. I think it has tremendous balance. I like the QB1 anchor running back, and I love the 4 running backs they took after. Devontae, just beast, steady. Keenan Allen, when healthy, is also a beast, also steady, and Amari Cooper. So I think I feel good about those top 3, and then Pitts as well as Dolchich have upside. So I like what I've done so far. I really do. Um, so we're looking at either a 2.592 or I do love Kyler Murray. I just think he's criminally underrated right now. There is a certain person in the industry that loves Trey Lance and thinks that that ADP is silly. So he's also another option. Um, so we'll see what happens here. I am 4 picks away from my next pick, so see how it pans out. The only reason I say Kyler is because I don't have full faith in Russell Wilson. I really don't. I think there is a scenario where okay, so Kyler goes. I'm honestly relieved a little bit because I don't love taking 3 QB builds, but if he's hanging around there that late, like I'm taking him. I'm taking him. So, but I do think there's a scenario where Russ just flat out sucks and possibly benched. I think that's in the cards. Possibly benched, possibly released, possibly traded. Um, or the other scenario is that Peyton's able to squeeze the best out of him, like kind of like Drew Brees at the end of his career when he didn't have much left. So that was my next pick right there, Renfro. But I've been taking so much Renfro. But I just think for the value there, he is great value. Let's see. I'm gonna go Slayton. I think Slayton has a good rapport with Daniel Jones. They did bring in a couple of guys, but I like Slayton. Another full season under Dayball. I think he can do some good things. And I'm gonna take a little reach here. I'm gonna grab Patrick. I think he's underrated for sure in this range. So I'm fine taking him 181, ADP 204, but no guarantee he makes it. So we have really nice correlation built in week 17. Dolchich, Patrick, Javante, and Russ, and Marvin Mims. Sorry. And then we get Herbert, Eckler, Keenan. I could have gone with Gerald Everett. I don't love Gerald Everett. He does nothing for me. Taking him here or there with a few Herbert builds where I could, grab Quentin Johnson and Gerald Everett or, Josh Palmer. Palmer's still there? Yeah, Palmer's still there. So he's an option too. You never know about Mike Williams. He's uh he's an injury prone guy for sure. And he's already banged up. I think still banged up from last year. So that should tell you. So back to the board. Take a look. These last few rounds here. See if I can just zoom out a little bit and get a better look at everybody's team. Yeah, looking at this team in the 10 hole. Um, CD he goes CD Lamb, but then Olave at 15 overall. I mean, he was excellent as a rookie, and I'm not even denying that. It just feels early for him just based on what I've seen so far. Like I'd much rather have Jalen Waddle, Jonathan Taylor, even probably Mahomes. I would prefer over Olave. Um, but he's trying to get unique, I think, trying to get a combo that nobody has. So can't totally hate it. It's not outrageous if he goes in the third and you're taking him in the second. Um, not completely outrageous, but not something I would probably do. So we are a long ways away, but our last two picks coming around. Um, really debating whether to grab a third tight end or just two more receivers. And I think for this build, two more receivers is the way to go. I feel good about Pitts, feel very good about Pitts, and I think Dolchich is going to be one of the steals of the draft. Um, Peyton always has a stud tight end on his roster, so I think he could be exceptional. And let's take a look at the receivers here. Yeah, so I mean, when you're drafted in this range, you're gonna. It's kind of like shopping at the bargain bin. Not a lot of sexy names, not a lot of things stand out. I think if Palmer makes it back to me, he's a definitive one just with the correlation. He had a good year last year. You're talking about 72 grabs, almost 800 yards, three touchdowns, solid. And with the way Mike Williams gets hurt, I think he could still even in a four receiver set, I think he could actually still have a couple weeks where he gets a long touchdown. But there he goes, of course. That's what happens when you hype him up. So a guy I really like who's under the radar is Michael Wilson. Um, a lot of people smarter than me have good things to say about him. I know Chris Sims was somebody who was talking him up. Hopkins is gone. Rondale Moore hasn't proven much, and I think there's just a tremendous opportunity there for someone to step in, fill those shoes of Hopkins. Pretty big shoes to fill, but I think it's a possibility. I like him more than Dortch. I mean, he overperformed, but I don't think that the talent is there for Dortch. So um, he'll probably go if I say his name. But I'm looking at Tank Dell and Michael Wilson, just a couple rookies upside. Dell is small, but if you watch the tape, he's talented, man. He is fun to watch. So, and I believe from what I heard, CJ Stroud requested that they draft him specifically. That was the rumor going around. So I'm gonna grab Dell. Um, if I didn't already love my running backs or like my running backs, I should say, I would grab Gainwell here because I think he has a chance to with the two guys in front of him who are made of glass. I think he has a chance to um, start by mid-season, maybe towards the end of the year. But I'm gonna go Wilson for this build. I'm gonna try and get the upside at receiver, and I think it's a nice balanced team. 2-5-9-2, and take a peek here. It's fun sometimes to just watch the last round, honestly, because people take shots. It's good to mix it up in that last round. Take someone you don't normally take all the time, and if you hit on that guy and he's even remotely good, if he gets a couple weeks in your lineup, 2, 3, 4 weeks in your lineup, you're ecstatic. You feel like you hit a home run. It's like a lottery ticket. So um Michael Wilson's one of those guys for me I like a lot. See how yeah, Gainwell, 18th round Gainwell is absurd value. Rashad Penny lives on the injured list. DeAndre Swift has already been criticized by his previous coaching staff. He's always banged up. They have to limit his touches. He's tremendous talent, but he's not someone you can rely on for 17 games, to say the least. So Gainwell goes there. This underdog is just a little glitchy on the. I usually draft on my phone, but it's a little glitchy on the computer. But CJ Stroud there in the 18th, I think, is another tremendous value. What team is that? Raider boy. So yeah, he grabs Burrow and then he gets a couple rookies. He's got Pierce. Yeah, so a little correlation there. Um, don't hate it. Don't hate it. Don't love going 3 QBs, but I think both of those guys have a chance to be very good as rookies. Yeah, James Robinson, another guy. It's like I'm a Patriots fan, so I want to root for Robinson, and I just don't see it. I think Pierre Strong takes that job. So I have gotten some Robinson, especially early on in the offseason, the big board and stuff like that when he first got signed. But um, I've stopped myself, and I'm taking more Strong than I am Robinson. Hunter Henry there again, very solid as your last pick. 9 touchdowns 2 years ago. I think he still had that connection with Mac last year, even though things didn't look great. But Bill O'Brien knows how to utilize 2 tight end sets. So it's another example. They had Tyler Scott. Like who knows? A lot of guys ahead of him on the depth chart in Chicago, but a lot of good things said about him prior to the draft. And it's you're just taking a shot. So I like that. I like taking shots on rookies. I like taking shots on high touchdown upside guys like Hunter Henry. For sure. So see what this last pick does to finish it out. And it glitched. Anyway, that wraps up my first stream draft. I've been looking forward to doing this for a long time, so it's happy to. Yeah, I'm very happy to get the first one out of the way. It feels great, and look forward to keeping these videos coming. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Take care, DGen Nation.